and as a city knows what to do with him other than the fact that he's completely behind them. They have one heck of a home court advantage that they've built up there. So that's why it's not going to be easy for Golden State to go in and get 2 wins. To me, I think it feels like it's a split in those first 2 games in Toronto, and partly for the fact that crowd's going to be going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with you. I think, honestly, if that's where the Raptors win games, I think it's going to be in Toronto. I don't think they win games in Golden State. I still feel like the Golden State Warriors could dominate this series, at least in the win-loss column. It's not outside of the realm of possibility for Golden State to sweep this finals. I mean, I wasn't really expecting them to sweep Portland Trailblazers. Right. I said maybe 5 or 6 games, but I wasn't expecting just a 4-game sweep. And I certainly wasn't expecting the defeatism that came out of Portland. But you can see that that's what the Warriors have the power to do to you. No matter if you're up by 17 or 18 points in each game, the Warriors can come back and beat you. And so I think for Toronto, being a relatively fresh face in this, just like Portland and others, they're going to be the ones with stress. So yes, I think they have a chance to gain a split in the first 2 games in Toronto, but I think once they leave there, that's where Golden State takes over this series, and especially if we find out if Durant or Cousins are coming back. And let's be honest, if they're ready, they're coming back. I don't think you can hold them back, but I think that could, in some ways, and I just thought of this when you were talking about Kawhi beating him up a little bit. I think in some ways that could actually work maybe in Golden State's favor, not just because Durant, you would be expecting him to gain 30 points and 15 rebounds or anything like that. I think that would be unreasonable. However, if you could have him or Cousins also putting in some work on Kawhi to slow him down, that's just as effective because it allows Curry and Thompson and Draymond to keep doing their work. So I think just, again, I go back to depth. I think the Warriors have so many ways to beat this Raptors team. Justin, we've come to that time of the segment where we got to make a call. What do you think is ultimately going to be the result of the NBA Finals?
I'm going to split in the first 2 games in Toronto. Then, like you, I think the Warriors will get it going, but I think they'll hit some kind of a stumbling block whenever they do get Durant and Cousins back. They're just going to have a game where things don't make sense. They don't shoot the ball well. Maybe it's back in game 5 when they get back to Toronto and they drop another one, then they take care of business. But I'm going to go Warriors in 6.
I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to go one less, though. I'm going to go Warriors in 5. I'm almost willing to pull the trigger on a Warriors sweep, but I'm going to give Kawhi 1 game somewhere. And I think, like you said, the first 2 games is a very reasonable place to get that done. But I'm going to go Warriors in 5.
All right. Well, one team we're not talking about going to the NBA Finals, and maybe not anytime soon based on the articles that have come out, is the Los Angeles Lakers. I've talked about it weeks ago. This team's going to continue to give us content, and they've delivered again this week. And actually, they delivered a few times since we've gotten to record. You had the whole Magic Johnson press conference where he resigned. Then you had him go on First Take and rip Rob Pelinka right there and saying he was the guy that was doing the backstabbing and talk about some of the issues in the organization. And the highly rumored article that had been waiting to come out came out on ESPN talking about more drama behind the scenes with this Lakers organization with Magic and Pelinka, and even Rich Paul made an appearance and got thrown in there as well. And the fact that Jeannie Buss doesn't seem to know what's going on with this team. And then on Tuesday night, Eric, I turned on the TV to SportsCenter to watch an NBA Finals preview, and Magic is on ESPN talking about how the article is not true and denying the accusations in the article against him. So lots of drama for your LeBron-led Lakers here, Eric. So what do you make of all these issues going on in Los Angeles, and who is the problem within this organization right now?
I'm glad it's not LeBron.
And try to keep this within an hour, please.
That's at the headline of these accusations or problems. To me, the word dysfunction, which was used in the article, it was used in the interviews, it's been used many, many times, is a very adequate word to describe this because, A, we don't know who's lying and who's telling the truth. So that's part of it because we don't know if the article's correct. We don't know if Magic Johnson's telling the truth. We don't know who's where in this whole story. And that makes it dysfunctional. But then you also look at the structure itself. Jeannie Buss may be great at a lot of things. I mean, the Lakers have been very marketable. They sell a ton of merchandise. They've got that market still over the Clippers. And I think that's her strength. But running a basketball team, I don't think is her strength at all. And so now you've got Pelinka, you've got Magic in there the last couple of years. All of these reports, where there's smoke, there's fire. We've talked about that with politics and everything else. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And no matter who's lying or telling the truth, all of this probably resides somewhere in that gray area where a lot of it is lies and a lot of it is truth. Meaning Pelinka and Magic probably don't like each other. They've probably both backstabbed each other. They've probably both made very poor decisions. Clutch being in there and being given more access to the organization than others, I think is absolutely wrong. And I think it's wrong because you have a player like LeBron being represented by them on their team. So I think that just is a huge conflict of interest. And so it's just dysfunction all over the place. This Lakers team won't be in the conversation for the Western Conference Finals until they can get this all figured out. Obviously, Magic's not there anymore. But, oh man, these players, do they trust LeBron? Do they trust Pelinka? Does Pelinka trust LeBron? Does LeBron? It's going to be a big mess until some of the pieces start to fall in place. Does Kawhi come down? Does Kyrie come down? Does anyone come over to the Lakers? And if no one does, which we've said is a big possibility, that some of these guys don't chase down to LeBron in the end of his career, they chase off somewhere else. And then that leaves you in the same boat that you were in this year, LeBron and young players trying to play around LeBron. I don't know, Justin, that this next 3 years is going to get much easier unless something radical changes because, yeah, dysfunction's the word.
Normally in articles like this, I try to look at who comes out of it looking good because then you think like, okay, maybe that person that looks good from this article was part of the sourcing for it. So you try to factor that in. This article ripped apart the entire organization. There's not one person that came out of the Lakers organization looking good. From Jeannie Buss down, they all look incompetent and the level of dysfunction is at an all-time high. I mean, before the show, I was sitting there watching the video of Rob Pelinka with The Rock talking about how the whole Heath Ledger and Kobe Bryant story came about, which has been unproven that the timeline is completely screwed up.
After Ledger's death?
Yeah. Like he completely either lied about it or just twisted the truth around to the point where it made absolutely no sense now that it's getting picked apart. So that's a story that's absolutely true in the article. Then you hear about the fact that here they are in the draft and everybody thinks they're going one way and they go the completely different route with Pelinka saying they had a conversation with Josh Hart about Amari Spellman. And he's saying that's not the case. It's just lies and dysfunction. And I thought the funniest story was here you have Adam Silver having lunch with Maverick Carter and Rich Paul's.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like sitting there with some kind of listening device and just pops in and starts talking about how much they want to get rid of Luke Walton. Well, what does Adam Silver care about that? He's the commissioner of the league, not the commissioner of the Lakers. So just the level of dysfunction within this organization. If you're a free agent, I don't know why you would want to come into this mess. Like, why would a guy like a Jimmy Butler or even Kyrie with all the baggage he brings, why would you want to come into this drama, this circus that produces these kind of articles multiple times a year? Just the whole thing, Eric, the whole organization looks completely terrible. And poor Dr. Buss, for the organization that he ran for all these years, to see where it's at now and the state of it, it actually is pretty sad and pathetic.
Yes, the only answer to that question is that a big free agent would come in thinking that they're going to be the savior of this situation. That's the only reason you would come if you were a huge free agent, that you thought, A, you were going to be somehow part of the solution, and B, you and LeBron were going to go win a title within the next 3 years. That is the only answer. Other than that, you're probably going to stay away.
And I don't even think if somebody has watched the way that LeBron is covered and the way he's been covered throughout his career, even if you come in and you are the savior, the only talk that's going to be is LeBron just won his 4th title and his first one with the Lakers and the first player to win a title on 3 different teams. Guys, I think, have to be smart enough to be able to see that if an Anthony Davis or a Jimmy Butler or Kyrie or one of the, Kyrie knows it. He left to get out from under that shadow because he was the guy that hit the big shot. And really nobody talked about it. Everybody talked about the block and the LeBron bringing the first title to Cleveland and his 3rd title. So I think guys have to be smart enough to realize that, yeah, I might come here and be able to win a title, but I'm not going to be the one that's going to get the lion's share of the credit. But if we lose, I'm probably going to get a lot of blame, and I'm probably going to be on the trading block if it gets bad enough.
Well, it comes down to, do you want titles or don't you? I mean, it's a lot of guys I think are going to be put in that position in the league, not just with LeBron, but anywhere. How much are you willing to put up with to get titles? I think people put up with a lot of Kobe's crap to be able to have a chance to get titles. You see that all through the history of the league. How much are guys willing to be either subservient or kind of be the second fiddle if they want rings? There's going to be some guys, believe me, that still want to. I just don't think it's going to be the flood to the Lakers that LeBron had hoped 16 to 24 months ago.
What's your thoughts on the speculation the Rockets have everybody open to talks? Woj was the one that had the tweet out and really didn't report that Harden was left off of that, just said he can't imagine a scenario where Harden is traded. But you have Chris Paul. He's got a monster deal. He's LeBron's best friend. Do you think that that's a kind of a plan B for the Lakers if they don't land a major free agent or can't pull off Anthony Davis, that somehow they pull off a deal for Chris Paul?
I mean, as a LeBron fan, I honestly...
Are you okay over there?
No. As a LeBron fan, I hope not, because I just think he's declined so much. I mean, this isn't the same Chris Paul of the Hornets and even the Clippers. It's just not. A couple years ago, he was injured coming into a deep playoff run for the Rockets. This year, he was relatively ineffective. I mean, good in spots, but relatively ineffective. He's not a star. He's not a superstar in this league anymore. So don't see any reason why Chris Paul is the CP3 that he could have been years ago to make a great roster. I mean, CP3 should have gone, with LeBron to Cleveland or something like that if he wanted to really win a bunch of titles. The Rockets, though, to answer your question, I think they're at a turning point, right? They've given money to these guys and they just can't get past the Warriors. So maybe it's time to flip the script and do something different. It would shock me, absolutely shock me, if Harden was not in a Rockets uniform over the next few years. But I guess it's the NBA, and that's one of the things we love about the NBA is that, it's not these stupid MLB contracts where guys are just locked into, their teams for the rest of their careers, and even when they're useless and unproductive. At least in the NBA, you get guys moving around a little bit. It keeps it interesting.
Well, the Lakers have 1 month to get it figured out and get a plan in place to make a run at whoever is going to come to LA. They're going to have the money to offer max deals to guys. It's just what level of player they're going to get. And if they don't get the players they're looking for, do they go out and seek out a trade outside of the Anthony Davis talk? Because it seems like David Griffin wants to try to make it work with Anthony Davis to at least give the Pelicans a shot, even though it seems like the reports are that's highly unlikely to change. But most deals I think that he can get now, Eric, he's going to be able to get at the February deadline. So it's going to be plenty of content for us going forward. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to debut the overtime segment, a quick debate segment. We got 2 topics this week. We'll talk about the Coca-Cola 600 and Brooks Koepka going forward. Can he win another major? All right, we're back to finish up the show with overtime. A little bit different from the lightning round. If you followed the show for many years, this is episode 99. Early on, we did the lightning round where we would just throw out one topic to each of us, and we would just have a solo take on it. Then the next person would get their shot. Overtime, a little bit different. We're going to banter around these topics, but in a much quicker format. So, Eric, this past Sunday, it was the Coca-Cola 600. And once again, we've seen this package that NASCAR has debuted this year continue to get better. And it was, I thought, a really good race for a 600-miler on Sunday night. So was this the best Coca-Cola 600 you've seen in recent history?
Oh, my gosh. Best Coca-Cola 600 I've seen in over a decade. These cars were racy all over the track all night long. This is typically one of the races on the schedule that I absolutely hate. You've got 400 laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway. And typically in the past, even as recent as a couple years ago, or really the last couple of years, you would have a guy like Busch or Martin Truex Jr., or those guys get out in front, get out in clean air, be the lead car, and then the gap would just get bigger and bigger and bigger to the second place car. You didn't see that this year. And I actually knew after the first 20 or 30 laps, because with the All-Star races and other races at Charlotte, you tend to know what you have pretty quickly as a viewer. And I was extremely encouraged that after 20 laps, the distance between first and 10th place was only 2.5 seconds. To me, that was huge. And as a viewer, I was already